So we have started a discussion on radiopharmaceuticals. So this is our last unit from the syllabus. So what we have discussed up till now in this topic, we have discussed what is the some of the terminologies that are, what is the meaning of the word radiopharmaceuticals, how it is divided. It is divided into stable and unstable. Then we have discussed some of the terminologies that are isotopes, radioactive isotopes, how it is discovered, and some of the features of radiopharmaceutical compounds. And today we are going to start a very important discussion of those radiations which are emitted from the compounds or the radioactive substances. Now we will move forward to the first radiation, that is alpha rays. Now in this we are going to discuss alpha rays, beta rays, gamma rays, and some of the pharmaceutical agents which are used in the market for the treatment of for the treatment of some of the diseases, as well as it is used as a diagnostic tool. Now our first radiation or the first compound is alpha radiation. It is occur when an atom undergo radioactive decay and gives off a particle which is consisting of either two protons or two neutrons. Now due to their charge, as these alpha particles are going to bear a charge, they carry two positive charges on its head and greater mass. So the molecular weight or the mass of the alpha particle is more. So the alpha particles interact strongly with the matter, as they are going to have the charged species. When they are traveling from the any media or any compound or any contrast media, they are acting strongly with the matter in which it is traveling, and only travel for a few centimeters in the air, because they are going to possess a larger mass. Now due to the molecular weight is high and being a charged species, it will not travel a long distance. It will travel just a few centimeters in the air, approximately about 7 centimeter in the air. So when any particle is going to emit alpha radiation, it is not going to cover so far distance. It is approximately at one time it is going to cover only 7 centimeter of the distance, and can be deflected by the strong magnetic field. As it is going to have the strong mass, it can be deflected when we are going to kept these alpha particles, or when the compound is going to be placed in the strong magnetic field. So what are the main important features of the alpha particle? So they are going to have a strong mass. So due to the presence of the strong mass and charged particle, it will not travel a long distance. It is going to travel either few centimeters in the air, and they can be deflected by the strong magnetic field. Now, these alpha rays have the lowest penetration power, as they are going to have the large mass. They are not able to travel the long distance, and due to the presence of the charged particle, they are having less penetration power and can be stopped by, even if we are going to stop the entry of any alpha particle, so we can stop it with the help of thin sheet of paper or even skin, meaning that it cannot enter the body very easily. So it cannot be entered in our body very easily. So these alpha particles can be directly injected in the tiny quantities in the tumorous tissue. If we are going to target any tumorous tissue or cancerous cell, that time we directly inject the alpha particles to kill those cancer cells. So since they are not very penetrating, they are less chance of damaging, or they unable to damage the healthy tissues which are there surrounding in the cancer cells. So if we are going to give the target treatment or target area for the particularly tumor or cancerous cell, we can select, or we can choose the use of alpha particle to kill or to kill the cancerous cells without damaging neighboring normal cells or healthy cells. So same time, cancer can cause the serious damage if get into the body due to their high ionization. See, it is going to be have a target oriented treatment, but due to its high ionizing power, high mass, less penetration power, if it is traveling in the surrounding media, that time due to low velocity and low penetration power, it can ionize the mass which is there in the surrounding medium, very specifically and very strongly. So they are capable of ionizing in numerous atoms and at a short distance. As it is going to travel at very short distance and very short velocity, so it is going to ionize the media very strongly. So it is due to the fact that the radioactive substance which release alpha particle is required to be handled with a very care. We should have or we must wear the rubber gloves when we are going to handle these alpha particles for the treatment or for the diagnostic purposes. So these are emitted by all the large radioactive nuclei such as, so these alpha particles can be emitted by the nuclei that are uranium, actinium, radium, platinum. So these type of radioactive elements can emit alpha particles or can undergoes a decay to produce alpha particles, and some smoke detectors also contain small amount of the alpha particles in it. So these are some of the sources of those alpha particles which are emitted as their radioactive decay procedure. Now some of the uses of alpha particles, they are most commonly used in the smoke detectors. The alpha decay can produce safe power source for radioisotopes and thermoelectric generators used for the space crews as well as for the artificial pacemakers. So this is the first compound or the first decay which we have studied, uh, that are alpha particles having larger mass, slow penetration power or less penetration power, travel through a shorter distance with a very low velocity and have strong ionizing power. Now our second compound which is emitted also as an radioactive decay procedure or a second rays, that are beta rays. Now these beta particles, they are extremely energetic electrons. These are basically an electrons which are liberated from the inner nucleus. Now when this beta radiation takes the form of either an electron or a positron being emitted from the atom. It may be an electron or it may be a positron which is emitted from the atom, or a neutron in the nucleus which can split into a proton and an electron through the emission of an beta particle. So this is maybe an electron, it may be an positron, or it may split up the neutron into a proton and electrons when it is emitted on the nucleus. So due to the small mass, as it is going to have the small mass, it is able to travel further in the air. So when we are comparing these beta particles with alpha particles, they can travel large distance or they can travel far distance as compared to the alpha particles up to about few meters. See, in the case of alpha particle, as it is going to have a higher mass, it is going to travel only the distance of 7 centimeter. But in the case of beta particles, they can travel the distance up to few meters and can be stopped by, if we are going to stop the emission of radioactive beta rays from the particles or from the element, so it can be stopped by thick piece of plastic or even a stalk of paper. So generally the beta particles are divided into two types of rays or radiation. There are positron, that is beta particles carrying positive charge, and then negatrons, that is beta particle carries an negative charge, that are electrons and positrons. Now, as these beta particles are rejected by the nucleus at rapid or pace, the beta particles are going to have the high penetration power when it is compared with the alpha particles, and they can travel through our skin as well. Now, these beta particles can be dangerous and more hazardous. So these beta particles can be dangerous and more hazardous when they are coming in contact with the body, so that the contact with these beta particles must be avoided for the handlings when we are going to handle these beta particles, because they can penetrate our skin, soft tissues very easily. So like alpha radiation, it can cause ionization of the living cells as well. So it is dangerous to our body, so it must be handled with a care. Now, The examples of the beta rays or the emission procedure through which the beta particles are emitted. For example, carbon 14 decay, nitrogen 14 plus beta particles decay. So these are the some of the elements they can also emit beta radiations. Now, strontium 90 is the material most commonly used for the production of beta particles. Now, the beta particles are widely used in the medicine as they are going to penetrate our skin and tissues. They have their own applications in the medicinal as well as treatment and diagnostic purpose. In brachytherapy, the beta isotopes can be used to irradiate the areas which are inside the patient to prevent the growth of certain tissues. So it can be used as an tool to stop the growth of certain tissues in our body. Now, the beta particles can be used to treat the health conditions such as eye, bone cancer, and they are also used as a tracers. Examples is the use of iodine 131. So the radioactive decay compound, that is iodine 131, it can be used to check the functioning of the thyroid gland, because this iodine 131 is going to emit the beta particle when it's decay. So this iodine 131, when it is going to emit the beta particle, those radiations or those rays can be used as a diagnostic tool to check the functioning of the thyroid gland. Now, these beta particles are also used in the quality control test to check the thickness of an atom. So if we are going to measure the thickness of any atom, that we can measure with the use of beta particles. It is used in the positron emission topographic scan, which is one of the analytical tool in the medicinal industry. Now, the next radiation which is emitted by the radioactive decay compounds are gamma rays. Now, the high energy wave from the nucleus of an atom. These gamma radiations are negligible in the wave, so they can travel with a high velocity, high energy wave from the nucleus of an atom. Now, this gamma radiation, unlike alpha and beta particle, does not consist of any particle. Basically, they are going to consist of photon of energy being emitted from the unstable nucleus. So these gamma rays or gamma particles, they are not basically a particle or atom or a part of the atom, that is proton, neutron or electron. They are basically a photon, that is energy wave, which is emitted by the radioactive nucleus. So this is quite unaffected by the magnetic field. As it is a photon in nature, it will not be affected by the magnetic field, indicating that they do not possess any electrical charge on it. See, in the case of alpha particle, they are going to have the uh, proton and the neutron. Then in the case of beta particle, it is divided into positron and electrons. But in the case of gamma rays, they do not have any charge on it. Now these gamma radiation can travel much further through the air than when we are comparing with the alpha particles and the beta particles. Now losing half of its energy after every 500 feet. So when these alpha particles are going to travel the distance of 500 feet, they are going to lose their energy half of its original. These gamma radiations are used as their own applications in the medicinal and diagnostic tool. It is used as like that of X-ray in their properties. So gamma particles or gamma rays are going to have the properties like that of X-rays. The gamma radiations or the gamma rays can be stopped by a thick or dense enough layer of material or a sheet of paper. That dense sheet of paper with a high atomic number material such as lead or depleted uranium being the most effective form of the shielding. Now, the gamma radiations have more penetrating power than the alpha and beta radiations. Basically, the gamma radiations which we can use have more penetration power than the alpha and beta rays. Now, for example, cobalt 60 with the excess of energy decay to cobalt 60 with less energy decay. The example of gamma radiation is when the cobalt 60 with that excess of energy intake, it's undergo radioactive decay procedure. It is going to produce a same compound as it is an uncharged species with a less energy plus gamma particles. Now some of the uses of gamma radiations. Gamma rays can be used to treat certain types of cancers. They are used in the therapy, that is to treat the cancer, that is in the radiotherapy. So whenever we are going to give the radiotherapy to the cancerous patient, we are going to bombard the patient's cancerous cell with the gamma radiations. It is used to cure cancer with a gamma knife surgery. It is used to kill the bacteria and viruses in the crops when we are going to bombard the gamma radiations, and the example of this is potato and onion, in which we are going to treat the bacteria and viruses and the crops. Then it is used in the sterilization process of our biological tissue products. So those tissue products or the blood products we can sterilize by bombarding gamma radiations, and it is also used in the medicine and the diagnostic tool, namely in the CT scanner. Now, we are going to study these radioactive compounds in detail. Now, for that, when we are going to study the radioactive compound in decay procedures, we are going to choose the study of its half-life. Now, when we are going to see that, or when we can say any radioactive element is going to emit the radiations, up to what extent it can emit the radiations. Now, the example is that when we can see that the half-life period of the radium is 1600 years. Now, the half-life of radium is 1600 years. We mean that we can start the compound by taking 1 gram of the radium, but by the end of its half-life, that is up to 16 years, it may be converted into a 0.5 gram. Now, no radioactive element decay away completely. Any radioactive element when we are going to use for the treatment or for the diagnostic tool, not a single radioactive element is decayed completely, and it is not decayed completely, so it is therefore meaningless to take the time to complete the disintegration of the elements in order to characterize it. So the value taken for the study of those radioactive elements is half-life. Now, the half-life, what is the half-life of any radioactive element? The time taken for a compound or an amount of that radioactive substance to decay exactly half of its value. So when any radioactive element will be decayed to half of its original, as it is cannot decay completely. So this property, that is half-life of that radioactive element, can be used for the study purposes for those radioactive elements. A biological half-life or elimination half-life is the time take for a substance. So the earlier is the radioactive half-life, and the next one will be the biological half-life, or the elimination half-life is the time it takes for a substance, that is drug, a radioactive nuclei or other, to lose half of its pharmacological, physiological and radiological activity. So when we are going to calculate this radioactive half-life, the formula for that is half-life, that is T half is equal to 0.693 divided by lambda, whereas the lambda is the disintegration constant in the unit per second for the any radioactive compound. Now, the duration of activity of, that is half-life of body or any radioactive element, can be determined by two time factors. One, the physical half-life of the isotope, and the other one will be, the second is biological half-life. Now, the biological half-life is given by TB is equal to 0.693 divided by Kb, whereas Kb is the rate constant for the elimination of the radiopharmaceutical from our body. So the calculation of physical half-life or the radioactive half-life is 0.693 divided by lambda, that is radioactive decay, and the biological half-life is calculated by TB is equal to 0.693 divided by Kb, in which The Kb is the rate constant for the elimination of the radiopharmaceutical from the body. After the functioning of the radioactive element in our body will be completed, it is removed from out of our body. It is known as biological half-life. So we need to combine these two half-lives, that is radioactive half-life and biological half-life, together to provide effective study of the radiopharmaceuticals. Uh, Now, these are some of the compounds which are used in the radiopharmaceutical as a diagnostic or for the treatment purposes. So the first compound which we are going to study is iodine 131. Basically, this iodine 131 is an important radioisotope of iodine which is discovered by Glenn and Skim at the University of California. So it is discovered in the California. It has a radioactivity pay half of its about 8 days. Now it is associated with the nuclear energy, medicinal diagnostic tool, and for the treatment procedures and natural gas production. It is also plays a major role as a radioactive isotope present in the nuclear fission products. So this is because of the major fission product of the uranium and plutonium. So this can be synthesized by the radioactive fission procedure of the uranium and the platinum. Now it is used to treat the thyroid cancer. Now the next compound or the next marketed formulation which is used in the radiopharmaceuticals is sodium iodide. It is an ionic stable liquid which is formed from the chemical region of sodium metal and iodine. Now it is white crystalline powder and consists of 1:1 mixture of sodium and iodine. It is soluble in water and partially soluble in the organic solvents like methanol and acetone. It is toxic to the nervous system, and in the case of rest, it is inhaled and less toxic in the case of skin contact. Now earlier two radiations can have the serial damage to the skin, but in the case of iodine 131, it cannot give the any type of radiation or any type of hazardous thing to the skin. Now, the uses of sodium iodide, it is used to treat or prevent iodine deficiency. If any person is going to have the deficiency of iodine in our body, so that time sodium iodine is used as a treatment for the deficiency purpose. A radioactive sodium iodide such as radioactive sodium iodide such as sodium iodide 125 and 131 and its derivatives are important radiopharmaceuticals that are used as a diagnostic tool. For treating thyroid cancer, it is scanning thyroid to determine the sign, position, and possible tumor location. It is used as a diagnostic aid to study the functioning of the thyroid gland, which is measured as uptake of radioactive iodine in 24 hours period. So it is used to treat the diagnostic aid for the functioning of the thyroid gland and which is measured as uptake of radioactive iodine in 24 hours. In the normal patient, the uptake is 15%, but 45% of that is third dose. Because by comparing these percentage values, less than 10% indicates the hypothyroidism and more than 50% will indicate hypothyroidism. So when we are going to study the radioactive decay procedure or hypo and hyperthyroidism, now in the case of first case, if the 10% indicate hypothyroidism and more than 50% will indicate hyperthyroidism. Now, some of the applications of radioisotopes. It is used and reported mainly in the field of medicine and biochemistry for the understanding of number one, metabolic reaction. If we are going to study the metabolic reactions of some of the drugs and what type of organ is involved in the metabolism are metabolic reactions provide an info of an normality and abnormality of any organ or tissue. So these radioactive compounds can be used to check the functioning of the radioactive organs of the body. The mechanism of action of the drug, if we are going to study any drug's mechanism of action, that time we can use the application of radioisotopes. It is also the location of cancerous growth. We can change the location of the cancerous growth to know the obstruction in the flow of the blood. So the earliest therapeutic use of radiopharmaceutical, which was recorded in the 1932, that is phosphorus 32 in the patients, we can use it as a radiopharmaceutical for the medicinal applications. Now, the choice of isotope as a radioactive tracer depending upon the combination of three factors. When we are going to use the radiopharmaceutical for the tracer function, it is going to have the combination of three factors: minimum half-life, minimum retention in the body, and minimum dose of isotope required. So within a short dose, it can be act as a radioactive compound. So again, whenever its function is over, it can be eliminated throughout the body and a short half-life period, so that we can study the procedure or the hazardous effects of these radioactive substances on our body. Now, the industry and the technology review of materials and welding in the construction control of reproductive processes and research. It is used in the agricultural for the plague control and food conservation. It is used as an restoration for the art objects that are gratification of the stone, historic and artistic object. It can be used in archaeology, that is geographical event dating, and as well as it is used in the universe, industry, medicines for the mitigation, treatment, and prevention purposes. Now, the radiopharmaceuticals are also used as a radiation source in the therapy of research, sterilization of frequently used apparatus, as well as it is used as a clinically and surgically examiner for the other countries, other externally or the internally. So these are some of the applications of these radiopharmaceuticals when it is used externally or internally. Now, for the external use of radiopharmaceutical, we can choose a radioactive decay, that is cobalt, cesium, strontium, then sodium phosphate, and yttrium. So this we can use externally. And whenever we are going to discuss about the internally, that is gold, which can be used as a internal diagnostic and medicinal tool. Now, the first one will be gold, then sodium phosphate, nickel, sodium iodide, iridium, and yttrium. So these are some of the compounds used as an radiopharmaceutical. Now, some of the storage conditions of these radiopharmaceuticals. According to the Radioactive Substances Act in 1993, radioactive material should be kept under conditions or under observation which present no radiation hazards, particularly to the non-radiation workers. This means that every effort must be made of prevent successive being damaged, broken upon, or spoiled, and steps must be taken to minimize the effect of any accident or other might occur. It should be stored in the locked store as well as with a suitably shielded paper, and it should be kept in the unbreakable containers. That time they can emit the radiation, so they must be stored in the unbreakable containers. No radioactive substance should be handled with the bare hands. Always we have to cover our hands with rubber gloves. Alpha beta particles emit by handling using thick gloves, whereas we can handle gamma rays by using thin hand gloves. So this is by mechanical means. Gamma radiations are the most dangerous and over oxygen. Dangerous as over the exposure can lead to the serious biological damage. Now, the radioactive material must be stored in a thick and deep container, or else they will evaporate and they will emit their radiation. So that we must be covering these compounds in a thick layered container. Now, the radioactive waste must be sealed and buried in the Earth. So uses of some radioactive isotopes. Number one, calcium 47. It is important aid in the biomedical researches studying cellular functions and bone formation of the mammals. Cesium 137. It is used to treat the cancerous tumors. To measure correct dosage or radiopharmaceuticals, and this can be used in the research in the red blood cell survival studies. So these are some of the radioisotopes and their applications. Cobalt 57 used as a tracer to diagnose the pernicious anemia. Then cobalt 60 used to sterilize surgical instrument, used in the cancer treatment, food irradiation and radiography. Then cobalt 67 when injected to the one injected to the monoclonal antibodies into the cancer patients, help the antibodies bind to destroy the tumor. Then after calcium, potassium, cesium, and chromium. So these are some of the uses of radioactive substances.